second spacewalk of 3 for me, and we're going to be going out and doing another spacewalk tomorrow, myself and Chris Cassidy. And Julie is going to be supporting us with robotic arm operations, and David Wolf, here to my right, will be up in the flight deck of Endeavour, watching us and making sure we're doing the right thing. So I haven't looked too much past that for right now, at least.
You know, Endeavour's on a mission. You're there at the International Space Station. I understand there are 13 of you sort of living together at this time. Give us an idea of how much space all of you have to live in, and how is that?
It's actually quite fascinating. We have representatives from all over the world of space. We have the Japanese Space Agency. We have Koichi Wakata representing them. We have Frank Devin, who's European Space Agency, and of course our Russian cosmonaut friends down in the Russian segment. We get together in the evening and can share stories about the workday. It's just been a fantastic experience to be involved in the operational sense all day long, and then synthesize it together in the evening to kind of share and take part in really where we are and reflect at the borderless Earth below us, and just appreciate all the hard work and engineering that's got to get us to this point today.
All right, Julie, this next question for you is actually two-part. I'd like to know about your work as operating the robotic arm, but your 3 male counterparts are sort of floating up and down. You're staying in place. How do you do that?
I don't know. I just stay put. And I tell them not to touch me because otherwise they destroy my equilibrium. For the robotic work that we do on station, this is a very heavy spacewalking robotics mission. Where we most of the time work in tandem or work at the same time with our colleagues on the ground at Mission Control. So it is very exciting work. I call it the robotics work probably has as much adrenaline in it because of the intricacies that it requires, that a spacewalk has calorie in it because these guys have to expend so much effort even to just go about. What is amazing, though, is that we can do it in a safe manner and be able to construct this orbital laboratory that we're in now, and it's a fantastic achievement, just barely 40 years after the first time we walked on the moon.
You know, speaking of that, the Apollo astronauts were at the White House this week. They encouraged President Obama to move forward with a plan of a manned mission to Mars. Is that a good idea? If so, would any of you want to be part of that?
As challenging as that, that'll bring out the very best that our country and all the countries have to offer to work together, can't help but be darn good for all of us.
Does that mean you want to be a part of it? Would you like to be maybe the first man on Mars?
Of course, but I think it'll be somebody either their age or even younger, one of the new classes, or one of the younger people watching this program. It's going to take us a while to get to Mars. We have a lot of challenges to overcome that will be some powerful careers made in answering those questions, and they will all throw back, shed light on problems we have on Earth. We have to solve radiation problems, cancer risk problems, bone loss, things that challenge the elderly are all similar things that challenge our long-duration space travelers, and the solutions are equally applicable in space and on Earth.
There's been a lot of coverage of this for a number of different reasons, but the number one reason is the toilet malfunction. Finally, I have an ability that would, equip me to be a NASA astronaut. I'm a good toilet man. Was that extremely difficult to fix, and was that a burden on the crew? And how did you get it done?
Well, we actually, I was going to say, we actually have 3 possible bathrooms. One's on the shuttle, one is back in the Russian segment, and one is right behind the camera here in the U.S. laboratory. So we had some backup capacity, but I will tell you that it was a pretty big effort. A lot of parts were changed out. A lot of this corridor would have been blocked with components. and it's handled very conservatively when we fix something like that, because things that may not seem as critical on Earth become pretty critical in space.
Julie, I want to ask you a question because you're our neighbor from Montreal. Your second trip into space, how different is that from the first trip up like Chris is experiencing, and how is our rookie astronaut from Maine doing?
Hey, what do you think?
They're trying to whisper the answer to my ear, but I will not oblige them. Let me answer the second question first. The rookie astronaut from Maine is doing extraordinary. I knew what a spacewalk was before because I've flown before and I've had spacewalk on my flight, and I've trained for many years with spacewalkers. But the last 3 spacewalks that we've done out of 5, I've realized again how hard and how complex and how difficult and how dangerous it is to put yourself clad in a suit, walk outside for several hours with nothing to eat, unable to scratch your nose if something happened, and having to do a really tough work with very, very little margin for error. And I have here my colleagues right behind me who were doing their first spacewalk just a few days ago and have done absolutely outstanding, even in the books of veteran Dave Wolf, who has done 7 in his entire career. And tomorrow they're going out the door again, including Chris, but this time leading the spacewalk. So that tells you exactly how he's doing. He's doing just phenomenal. And as far as the difference is enormous. When I first came to space, I went to the International Space Station, but at the time it only had 2 modules, was completely empty, nobody on board. We came, we brought equipment, and we went. This time I came to an enormous station, the size of 2 football fields, with 9 living module quarters where you could work. Already 6 people on board from different nationality. It was just a completely different world. And it has been so busy now since the beginning of the mission that we haven't had time to explore, and we hope that we'll have a bit of time at the end of our stay here to explore this extraordinary laboratory.
Now, I understand you've checked out the damage to the heat shield that happened during launch with cameras and even with your own eyes from inside the space station. At this point, how concerned are you about the damage?
Actually, we're not concerned at all. We know that some pieces of foam fell from the tank, but right off the bat, we had some of our crew members that took pictures of the tank to start the analysis. Then on the second day of the flight, we conducted some inspection of our thermal covers. We found nothing of significance, and we didn't even need to do a second set of inspection, which was planned for flight day 5. We didn't do that one because it was not necessary. So once we undock the space station, we'll plan another set of normal inspections, and we'll be clear for re-entry.
Now, yesterday, and I guess this would be addressed to the spacewalkers among you, yesterday you had a little bit of a problem with one of the spacesuits in terms of CO2 levels. How scary an event is that for you when you're outside the ISS like that?
Well, it was my suit, and we're fortunate to have a team of fantastic people on the ground. They're getting telemetry from each of our suits. They're continuously updating on the suit data and periodically updating on our biometric data. So they're keeping a trend and a path of all the intricacies of the suit, and they're able to detect any problems long before we inside would have any idea. In fact, it was a total surprise to me that the CO2 was climbing high, and when we aborted in conservative numbers, so I felt no symptoms and was really not that concerned. I was confident that they had my safety in mind.
This you get from a Navy SEAL who's done a lot of this kind of thing. It can get your attention out there doing that too.
Now, this week, of course, we celebrated the 40th anniversary of man's first walk on the moon. It's been a big deal here on Earth, of course, and you've been up there celebrating, I guess, a little bit on your own. But moonwalker Buzz Aldrin believes we ought to skip going back to the moon right away and go straight for Mars next. Can I ask for a show of hands how many of you would agree with that?
I'll tell you, there are a lot of smart people that are